Stampers, it's Linda Schmidt with Stampin' with the Hounds. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. I am going to be doing a fun fold today featuring some of the new products that are in our holiday catalog. And then also, just as a reminder, starting on November 25th, which is Monday, 2025, Stampin' Up! Is having their first ever Black Friday sale. So it's all week long. So there's going to be items that anywhere from like 10 to I believe 40% off. So you want to make sure that you check that out. If you want to shop with me, my website, I will put a link at the bottom for that. But otherwise, let's get started. I'm going to show you a couple of things. So it'll be the fun fold, and then we're going to do a little bit with the stenciling and playing around with some embossing paste using this new Snowy Delight stamp set on it. So the hidden message fun fold is it's fairly simple. So you're basically taking your card, and you can do however you want, with your designer series paper. And when you open it, as you open it, you're seeing how this is sliding. Now I did find, and it's catching here, on my original ones that I was doing, I was layering this piece a little bit smaller, and it catches sometimes. So the one I'm going to show you today, I'm actually making this white cardstock longer so that you don't have that issue of it catching on there when you do your fold. So, but anyway, it's kind of a fun one where it's just kind of, it slides open. It's like that little hidden message. And this would be another one where you can put a gift card in here if you wanted to, because this is like a pocket basically that this is sliding into, because it's held together by adhesive on the top and bottom. So anyway, this is using the new Elegant Pine designer series paper, and then several of the snowflake kind of themed stamp sets and dies. So the first one, the main one here, this one comes with a stencil, it comes with the stamp set, and then it has coordinating dies that go with it, with different snowflakes, ones that you can die cut the actual stamp out, and then ones that you can use, solo by themselves, kind of like this one here, and then also doing this one. So it's a neat, I love snowflake stamp sets, so you can never have too many snowflakes. You can also do some fun shaker cards with it, because it does have that layering piece on it. And then the masks that we'll be showing you today as well. It's got 4 of them, so you can do for your stenciling. And these you can just do, you don't even need the stamp set. You can just do your stenciling with the snowflakes. And then the other one that I'm just kind of using some of the sayings from it. This is another really cute. It's called Snowflake Kisses. And the coordinating die, and I haven't really played around with this one too much yet, but that's the next thing on my to-do list. It has all these really pretty snowflakes, plus you can do making a window. It's got this big cover die that cuts out the snowflakes, and then all those little pieces and embellishments with it. So it's a really fun die set. And you can use that again like all winter long. It's not like a Christmas theme. Okay, so let's go through some of the samples. So the Elegant Pine, that's kind of what we're going to be using today on it. And then yesterday I was kind of playing around with some like non-traditional Christmas colors, and then just kind of looking at some other stencil combination for the colors. And so on this one, I'm using the, what is it? It's that 6x6. It's the Bokeh, beautiful Bokeh. So it's 6x6. It has all of these really pretty pastel colors with that bokeh pattern, and then on the back it's kind of more of like a little splattered look to it. And so I was using the Fresh Freesia and kind of that bubble bath colors on it, just to kind of give it a little bit of a non-traditional Christmas color combination. So I thought these kind of turned out really pretty, very girly. So again, here the message slides out and then tucks back in. Cute. And I did a little bit of the embossing paste that I colored with some balmy blue ink refill, because that's that iridescent, kind of matches like my fingernails are a little super glittery today this time. Here's another one again, and here I did the die, kind of just die cut that little thing, and then this is the stamp set up there at the top. So really fun. So it's a good way. This is another good card to use your 6x6 pattern paper. And then here I was doing, so this is just cutting out just one of the snowflake dies. And then there's that little centerpiece that comes with it too. So this one is some retired paper, but I still had some scraps left, and I thought this one turned out really very simple, very neutral. But see here, this is where I've got it longer, so now it no longer catches on it, and it's got that little easel. Fun. Love the glimmer. And then here's another one. So again, some retired paper. This is a newer set. This is that Outdoor Adventure, which is an online exclusive. I love the little deer and the fox in this one. And this has dies that go with it. So that's where this came from, as well as the mountain. And the snowflakes came from the Snowy Delight. Yes. Or no. The other one. Snowflake Kisses, I think. On it. So here I made my little mountain scene. And then again, when it slides open. And again, I kept this piece longer so it's not catching anymore. Fun. And then I did a little bit of die cutting, and I used my Wink of Stella just to kind of color in those snowflakes. Super pretty. I kind of like the grays. And then here are some using the Branching Out, which is another online exclusive stamp set that I really like. This is one that you can use all year long. And this has some great dies that coordinate with it. So both of these, again, so I use the die cut, so you can do that too. You don't have to do the paper. And so that one, it doesn't catch either, which is kind of nice. So again, that's that Evergreen Elegant Pine Designer Series paper on this one. And then the other one, using that Elegant Pine and the Branching Out, is this one. And here I've got my Silent Snowfall specialty paper, which we're going to be using today. And then again, here I did that same thing with the die from the Branching Out. Super cute. Fun, fun, fun. All right, so we're going to be kind of doing something similar to this. We're going to use some different papers and colors, but we are going to be featuring that Snowy Delight, and we're going to do some stenciling. So we're actually going to start with the stenciling first. I'll go through the pieces that you need for the card base, and then we're going to do the stenciling, just because that embossing paste needs to dry. Okay, so your cardstock for the base, and again, you can have this be the same color as your mechanism, which is this piece, or you can do it different, like I've done here on it. So depending on what you want to do, I'm going to be doing two different colors. So my cardstock base is 5 1/4 by 8 1/2. Then you're going to need, this is the piece that sits on the back. So this is just a 1/4 sheet of cardstock. So that'll be a different color because you want it to layer. And so that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Then for the mechanism, that is on that inside here, that's making that little angled where it kind of slides into that pocket. This is where you can either have it be the same color as your base, or if you want to bring out, you know, what you did for your back one. So either way, you can do. And so this is going to be 3 3/4 inches wide by 4 1/4 long. And you're going to score on this shorter side. And then for your pattern paper, you can either do the same pattern, because again, you're going to have one on the front and one on the inside. So it can be the same or it can be different. I'm doing different ones, but these are both from Elegant Pine. So both of these pieces need to be 2 1/2 by 5. I'll be doing this on the inside or outside and this one on the inside. And then for the right side of the card, which is this piece, you can use specialty paper, you can use the glitter, you can use designer series paper, you can take cardstock and emboss it, whatever you want to do. That is going to be 1 1/2 inches by 5. And again, I am using that Silent Snowfall. It's a 12 by 12 pack of this kind of like already embossed, texturized paper. It's like a little, not quite as thick as cardstock, but it's got some good weight to it. That's 1 1/2 by 5. And then for the message that goes on top of the mechanism, and again, this is where I made it wider so that it doesn't get caught on when you're sliding it. I made it to be 2 5/8 by 4 inches on that one. So those are all the pieces that you need. And then for the snowflake, we're going to start with that first because I want to have time for that to dry before we actually do the fun fold. And I am actually using, put this somewhere where I don't lose it. I'm using some of that Silent Snowfall specialty paper, and we're going to emboss it. So I've already kind of laid this out on my Stamparatus or whatever stamping platform that you use, just to make sure that it's lined up. So this is the outline stamp that is from that Snowy Delight. So it's a fairly big background stamp. You can use, if you don't have a stamping platform, you can just use the large block that we have. What is this one called? A or F. Yeah, so it's the big block. You can just put it on there too, but with my arthritis, it's harder for me to do it that way. So since we're going to be embossing, I'm going to put a little bit of anti-static powder onto the specialty paper. And then I am going to ink up my stamp with Versamark. I normally do Versamark, but I'm going to do silver just because I want you guys to be able to see it on the video. So I'm just going to use, this is just an old, my gosh, this is probably like 20 some years old when Stampin' Up used to carry it, but it's Encore. So, but again, a Versamark, any type of pigment ink pad, but I'm just going to do this silver just so that it shows up better on camera. Okay, and then we're going to just use my little press tool to make sure this is inked up. And so I'm stamping on the raised side. So that looks like, I'm going to give it one more round of ink just to make sure it's good and inky before I put the embossing powder on. Okay, and then I'll make sure I'm got my powder stuff ready here. All right, let's get this out of the way. Okay, so then I'm just going to use my powder pal tray, and I'm just going to pour on the silver embossing powder. Give it a little tap, and I'm just looking to make sure everything is inked and powdered and it looks pretty good. So now we can go ahead and emboss that. And I just give it a spot check to make sure everything looks embossed. Okay, so that looks good. All right, now we are going to stencil. So on the stenciling, so it comes with 4. So this first one, now when you get these, there's going to be a little, oops, we're caught here. There's a little notch, and then there's a number. So every time when you first start off, you want to make sure that wherever you have this positioned, So I'm just going to put this is like a little gripper mat. It's just like a big photopolymer stamp. But I just take like a, not a Sharpie, it's just like your dry erase markers. And just so that I'm making sure I'm putting my paper every time where I'm putting it. So this first one, since I've already stamped it, I'm not going to use this one because it kind of fills in the entire snowflake. And I want to be able to see more of that silvering. So I'm not going to use the first one. I'm going to go right into the second one. And so this will be my first one that I'm doing. So I am just going to make sure everything is lined up where I want it. And then I'll make a little mark where that notch is so that when I lay the next one on top, I know where I need to put my stencil. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now this is a gripper. So it's actually kind of gripping this mask. But I'm just going to take where that little notch is. I'm just making a mark there. And then I'm just kind of putting some over here just so that when I line it up, I know where it's at. All right, so now we're going to layer on top of these. And that's going to be for the mask. Okay, so you want to start with a lighter color. And since I'm only really going to be doing the two, I think I'm just going to start with the pretty peacock. And then this will be with the thing. Yeah, okay. Otherwise, if I was going to do this first one, I would do Lost Lagoon, or I would just do the pretty peacock, do it very light, and then on the next mask, do it again and then make it darker. But since I'm just going to be doing two colors, I'm not going to use this Lost Lagoon. I thought I was, but I changed my mind since we're using that embossing paste. All right, so now you want to grab your blending brush and you're just going to get some ink on it. Now, I like to basically kind of just tap off a little bit before I start putting it onto the mask itself. And I'm going to start on the mask and move into where that stencil part is. And you're just kind of doing a circular motion. And you want to be careful. Sometimes like on your stencils, it's not so much on this one. But some stencils, you have to be careful that you're not, you know, if it's got something that's very fine and detailed, that you don't grab it and like tear your stencil, because I've done that before. So just real circular motion. So here I'm just kind of going fairly light. So if I wanted to layer on top of it with the same color, you know, I could still apply more pressure and make it look darker with just the one ink pad. But since we're just doing the two different colors, I'm going to go a little bit darker here on this one so it looks like a pretty peacock color. And then with the stencils, off to the side of my desk here, I've got a tray that just has some soapy water in it. You can also just spray this down with like rubbing alcohol with like a cloth. You can do that as well to clean them, or just rinse them off with water when you're done. All right, so that's the first one. So we're just going to peel this off. Okay, so that's, we're going to throw that in the tray to get clean. Now, I am going to do, so normally this would be number 3. I'm going to save this one, and this is going to be what I'm going to use for my embossing paste. So I'm going to save that one for last, and I'm going to skip to the number 4. And so again, this is where I'm lining up, looking at where my marks were, and then also like the mask itself. So like on this one, I'm spotting that I want these circle, or these little dots here, I want these lined up onto the spine of those snowflakes, branches, or whatever you want to call them. Okay, that looks pretty good. We'll just press this down. And again, if you don't have like a little gripper mat, just use some low tack tape to adhere your stencils in place. Okay, and then we're going to use Secret Sea, which is an in color. So this is a really pretty, it's like a very, very dark bluish black color. I love this color. It's a great neutral. All right, so this is going to be Secret Sea. So it's way darker than like Night of Navy. But again, even with this one, you can do some shading, you know, just not as applying as such firm pressure for the lighter, you know, version of it. And then when you want it darker, you just add more ink, more pressure, and it'll darken it up. All right, so we're coming together. All right, so that are the two colors. Now we're going to take this number 3, and this is where I'm going to be using my embossing paste, because I want this to be like all textured and sparkly. And embossing paste, I know it's like stuff that people just don't use very often, but when it comes to like stenciling, I think it just adds a nice texture. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to press that into place. All right, so this is, and it lasts forever. I mean, look at this labeling. This is old. The old labeling, and I mean, it still works really good. So we also have with it, you know, it has like a little 3-pack of like tools. So depending on what you want to, either, you know, these all work for different things, but I did, so this is from yesterday. Oh, this kind of got a little messy here. I'll have to fix that. But you do want to keep this moist, you know, basically. So a lot of times if you have like a little piece of saran wrap, you know, to cover it so it doesn't dry out, that is something good to have on hand. So here, I just want to show you, because you can, of course, now it's like frosting is getting all over. You can add ink refill to it. I'm just trying to see, it might be dried out because this is from yesterday. Let's see if it's still in here. Oh no, it's still good. So here's where I kind of added balmy blue ink to it. So it got a little bit of that blue to it. So it's a little dry, but you can always just mist it with water too on that. So, but we've got some pieces here. I'm just gonna get this off. So this is kind of the shimmery white embossing paste. All right, and I'm going to use this tool. So it's better to start with a little bit, because if you get too much, then it's like, it gets to be kind of a mess. And then I'm just going to smear it onto the stencil itself to start. Okay, and now we just want to pick some up, and then just like you're kind of frosting a cake, you're just kind of pressing it in and then gliding over just to kind of pick up the excess. And like I said, the thicker you put it on, the longer it's going to take to dry. You can also just kind of give this a shot with the heat tool as well. And then with the embossing paste, you do want to make sure that you clean these masks right away afterwards, because if you let it sit, it hardens, and they are, let me tell you, it's really hard to get, especially the sparkle, especially this glitter stuff. Okay, so now I'm just making sure these all are covered, and I'm just kind of scraping away the excess, putting it back into the jar. And again, you kind of mist this with water if it dries out. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let me just do a little spot check just to make sure. Yep, that looks good. All right, so we are going to carefully lift this up. All right, so now there's got all that paste on there. I'm going to put that in my tray. It's got a little bit of soapy water in there. I'm going to let that soak along with my spatula, just so that I make sure that it doesn't have that stuff drying on it. And then you'll want to, and of course I've got to get a new lid for this. I need to get some saran wrap to put on here, and that helps it not to dry out. So we will deal with that later. And I make sure I get all this off my fingers. Okay, so we're going to let that dry, and now let's do our fun fold. Okay, so we're just going to move this off the way, and then once it dries, I will die cut this out. So we'll just set that aside for now. All right, and then, like I said, you can go ahead and, with that dry erase marker, it just comes off the little glass mat, or if you've got like a silicone mat, that works. Okay, so let's do our scoring. All right, so we are going to start with the card base, which was the 5 1/4 by 8 1/2. So on the long side, we're going to score at 2 3/4 and 6 3/4. Okay, so that's the card base. We'll just set that aside for now. Then we're going to need the mechanism, which was the 3 3/4 by 4 1/4. So on the 3 3/4 inch side, we're going to score at 3/8 of an inch. Okay, and that's it for the scoring. So pretty simple. All right, so now let's go ahead and assemble this. So on your base, you're gonna turn it around, because this narrower side becomes your right side and the wider side is the left. So we're going to valley fold on these score lines. And then I actually like to, just because this one's going to be moving, I'm just going to score on it both ways, or burnish it both ways, just to make sure it moves really well. All right, so then that, so it's almost like, you know, kind of reminds me of like a little offset gatefold. And then this is where we're going to tape this down, because so it becomes like a pocket. All right, and then on your cardstock mechanism, so this was at 3 3/4 by 4 1/4. We scored 3/8 of an inch, and this is going to become a mountain fold. And again, on this one, I am going to burnish it both ways, because this mechanism, I want to make sure that it's moving really well. Okay, so when you're looking at it, you should have this mountain fold on this side. That's the really narrow one that's facing you. This is where your adhesive goes, and you want to use the tear and tape or a glue, because it needs to be, make sure that it doesn't fall off. So I'm just going to use some tear and tape, and we'll just set that aside for now, because I want to put my designer series paper on my card base. Okay, so here we got our card base. So on our front panel, we had our 2 1/2 inches by 5 pieces of designer series paper. One goes on the outside and one is going to go on the inside. I'm just going to tape these in. I know this looks black, but it's actually, it's the Secret Sea. So this is the Secret Sea and Pretty Peacock are the colors in this designer series paper, plus the white on the side that I'm using. right, and we open it up, and then the other one that was 2.5 inches by 5, that's going to go here. I'm going to have it going that way. All right, now this is going to come down because this is where this becomes our pocket. So you want to put strips of the tear and tape here, and you want to make sure that these are fairly close to the edge so that your mechanism doesn't get hung up on this tape. So that's like if you were using glue, you'd want to make sure that you don't go too heavy-handed, because you just want it just on this top and bottom. But don't adhere this yet until you put your mechanism in. All right, so now this mechanism, again, remember we had it kind of like that little mountain, and we put our adhesive on that 3/8 inch of an edge. You are now going to lay this down so that this edge is right in the score line, because you want to make sure that this still moves, and when we remove this, we're going to fold this down, and then it's going to be attached to that left side panel. So I just want to make sure, one, that I'm, centered, and that I'm not butting, it's not going to hit any of this tape, is the other thing you want to be aware of. So that looks pretty good. Just looking for my pick tool. So I'm just going to remove this backing. And then I'm just going to close the card, give it a burnish, and so now it's attached to our card, like so, okay? And then I like to just give this one last burnish, and then you want to go ahead and put your stamp, your sayings and stuff, because that's going to go on here, and then we'll remove this, and then this will come down. So let's go ahead and let's do our stamping on this really quick before we do the rest of it. So we're going to having the snowflake on the outside, and I think I'm just going to keep this fairly simple. So we're on, I'm going to do Secret C, and I believe on this one, when I go to, because we're going to have a little bit of a border showing around the edges. This is coming down. So as long as I'm staying, on this side of it, you're going to be able to see the message when it's open. So this is where I kind of keep it as a guide, more or less. And I'm going to have to stand to do this so I can see over the camera. Nothing worse than Stampin' crooked. Okay, so we're going to put that right there. Oh, Linda. Dang nabbit. All right, 2 sides of the cardstock. See, that's why we wanted to stamp first, because after you have it all assembled, that would have been icky. Not pretty. All right, let's try this again. See, even the demonstrator goofs up from time to time. All right, let's try this again. Much better. And then I'm going to do a little, I think I may do that in a Lost Lagoon, just so it's a little bit lighter, but I'm going to take the little snowflake stamp, and we'll just do some like right on this little corner. Or do I want to do it more on the top? Yeah, we'll do it down here at the bottom. Perfect. Okay. All right, now that can be adhered to our mechanism. And again, you can do designer series paper if it's like a neutral. Oh, it's not that one. I think it was this one that I did. So like here, I actually did the designer series paper on my messaging. So that is another possibility too that you can do. All right, so now we can go ahead and attach this on, and then we'll put our other designer series paper on that opposite side of this panel. All right, so keeping this open, this is flat. We're just going to bring this down, give it a burnish. And so now there's that pocket where if you wanted to, you could put a gift card right in there. And then the mechanism opens and closes. So now this pattern here, this was 1.5 inches by 5. And again, this is that snowy, silent snowfall designers or specialty paper. So it's a little bit already embossed on there, and that's in the white. And you can, if you wanted to, you can take your blending brush and color on that to give it a little bit of, I'm just going to show you if I've got a scrap. No, I don't have one handy, but you could do that too instead of just leaving it plain white. But we're just going to leave it plain white for this one. And then that closes. Super cute. Doo, doo, doo. All right, now hopefully our snowflake is dry. That feels pretty good. So on this one, again, with the die set, it has all these dies with it. There's a larger one, and then this one is going to actually cut this one out. And then this larger one is this one, if you wanted to layer your snowflake, you can do that too, which is kind of cool. So these are some of the other ones that I've kind of stenciled. So on this one, I did the outline. I did that full, so I did all of them, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's like the pool party, there's a little bit of shaded spruce, there's the cherry cobbler, and then the starry, or Secret Sea is what I used. And then I feel like there's one other one in there. Oh, I think I did pool party twice. That's right, on it. So, but yeah, so it's kind of fun, really cool. All right, so I'm going to die cut this off camera because I want to, just got to make sure it's aligned up here. Because you don't want to, I don't like die cutting it crooked. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to die cut this really quick off camera. All right, and then the other thing I like to do, just because this is kind of flimsy, I'm going to die cut another piece, and I thought I had, I'm going to grab a just another sheet of paper here really quick because I want to die cut this so that it's not. So I'm just using some of our two-tone cardstock just because it's a little bit lighter, but I want to layer this. I'm going to do one more of these off camera really quick. Sorry about that. I thought I had this cut already. All right. That way, you just got just a little bit support on it because that white snowflake paper was a little thin. All right, so let's make sure this is lined up. If I did it that way, I think I've got to go this way. Yeah. Yeah, so the two-tone cardstock, like I said, one side is a little bit darker than the other. but it's thinner than our regular cardstock. So when you want to layer, this is kind of a nice option so it doesn't give your card too much bulk and weight. Because man, postage, oy. I spent a small fortune on my Thanksgiving cards I mailed out. Like, oh, stamps are getting so expensive. So this is totally optional. I think it just finishes off the card. And again, it gives it a little bit of stability. And the reason why is because part of it's going to be offset on it. So I wanted to have a little bit of support there. So there, now you can kind of see that texture with that shimmery white embossing paste. And depending on which way you want your snowflake going. Oh, and then we also need to attach, I forgot, this is our cardstock back. So this is at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So let's put that on really quick. I almost forgot about it. So this is a peacock going on top of the, or Secret Sea on top of the peacock. All right, now we can go ahead and attach that. So once I've kind of eyeballed where I want it, then I just take a little pencil mark just so that I know to put glue from here on back. Because the other part's going to be overhanging, and that's why I did the double layering so that it wasn't flimsy. And just make sure before I press really hard that we're centered. Okay, that looks good. Pretty, so pretty. All right, one last thing, and then we are done with this card. I'm just going to add a little bit of a gem. These are the low profile sparkle dots. There's kind of like this yellow, and then olive green, and then this one, it's like a, oh man, this is like stuck together. There we go, got caught in the packaging. It's almost like a pretty peacock, Secret Sea. I mean, it's got a little bit of, it's a good combination of the two colors. So I'm just going to put one of those, and I probably only need, I don't know if this is going to fit in there. I did the larger one in the center of my snowflake. Oh yeah, that'll work. Can do that. And then I think I want to do, get this pushed off. There we go. Let's do one here. Gotta have lots of sparkle on your cards. Actually, let's do the smaller one. I was just trying to like align all my snowflakes here on it. So, okay. Fun. So that is the hidden message card, plus learning how to use your stencils and your embossing paste to make a fun winter Christmas card. Yay! So thanks again for watching. It is, gosh, Thanksgiving is next week, so I've got a good head start on my Christmas cards. Which is always a good thing. But anyway, thanks again for joining me today. Have a great and creative day, and I will stamp again with you soon. Make sure you check out the Black Friday sale starting next week. And thanks again for your support. Ezra and I, roo to all of you, and have a great day. Thanks again. Bye-bye.